Why do educators need to understand psychology and/or learning theories?
Educators need to understand psychology and learning theories because of the importance of understanding their students. Students all learn differently, and not all students will act the same in class, so it is important to know how to approach them. We can thank William James and John Dewey as they were pioneers for educational psychology. As stated in Educational Psychology, written by John W. Seintrack, among the important ideas in educational psychology that we ought to do are these: the child as an active learner, education of the whole child, emphasis on the child's adaptation to the environment, and the democratic ideal that all children deserve a competent education. It is important to know psychology and the learning theories behind it because it avoids errors in judgment. If you know the psychology behind why your student is acting a certain way towards a lesson, then you can act properly instead of doing the wrong things. Let's look at an example of a teacher that has no idea how to respond to a student, contrasted with a teacher that knows exactly how to respond to a student and can further their education.
Everybody, so today we're going to do derivatives, and I already have a practice problem on the board right here. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Anybody? Guess not. I'll write the answer up here. Alright, so that's the answer. And I have a worksheet for you guys to work on. Have fun.
Thanks, Mr. Arsenault. Hey, Mr. Arsenault, I'm a little lost. You didn't explain it very well. Could you give me a hand?
Jesus Christ. He's always talking about how I never teach right. Come on up here.
I'm just having a little bit of trouble with the way you taught the lesson. Is there any way you could explain it to me a little bit more?
The way I taught the lesson? Are you sure it's me and not you?
Well,
I don't want to hear it. Alright, you either pay attention or you don't. Okay? Get back to your seat. I'm not explaining it anymore.
Alright class, so today we're going to be going over derivatives, and I already have a practice problem on the board for you guys. Can anybody in the classroom solve this problem right now? No? Alright. I'll solve it for you guys, show you how to do it. Maybe that'll help. So you bring the 2 down, and then you get rid of it at the top. And then it becomes 4x. And I have a worksheet for you guys to practice that. Here you go. Give it a shot. Let me know if you need any help.
thanks, Mr. Strack.
No problem, Kyle.
Hey, Mr. Strack. I'm a little bit lost. I was wondering maybe if you could help me by explaining it a little bit more.
This student again seems to always have problems following along with my work. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong. See if I can help him out. Yeah, Kyle, come on up. This seems to be the problem you're having.
Well, I'm having problems when we go to this basic stuff and get into this more complicated stuff right here.
Alright, so basically what I did was, when you drop the 2, you multiply the 2 by the 2 that's already next to the x. And when you go back up, you subtract 1 from the exponent. So that's why the 2 goes away. So that becomes 4x. Does that help at all?
Yeah, it really does. Thanks, Mr. Strack.
Yeah, no problem. Ask me if you have any more questions.
I will, thanks.
Which of the theories / approaches / ideas can you see applying in your classroom?
I can see myself using the constructive constructivist approach in my classroom. It's a learner-centered approach that emphasizes the importance of individuals actively constructing their knowledge and understanding with guidance from their teacher. In the constructivist approach, teachers should not attempt to simply pour information into their children's minds. Rather, children should be encouraged to explore their world, discover knowledge, reflect, and think critically. With careful monitoring and meaningful guidance from the teacher, I believe using this approach gives students a better understanding of what they're actually learning rather than just knowing an answer. It gives them real-life examples of how they can apply what they learn to the world around them. It gives the students multiple platforms to look at the same information, and I will certainly use it in my own classroom. Which of the theories, approaches, / ideas can you see yourself applying in your classroom, Ben?
I can see myself applying all the theories in my classroom, but the one that kind of resonates with me most is connectivism. Connectivism was developed by Stephen Downes and George Simmons, and it's the newest form of a theory. And basically what it is it's letting kids be the drivers of their learning, and that learning helps you connect and build knowledge via these nodes that you can make with a network. And the whole idea behind this theory is a network. The nodes that we use, they can be used as resources or people to give you a better understanding of the lesson or the knowledge content that you're talking about in your lesson. And that's the theory that I kind of like most because that's how I learn best.
Which of the theories / approaches / ideas can you see yourself applying in your classroom?
I can see myself doing the objectivist theory, which has two components. It's the behaviorist component and the cognitive component. Now the behaviorist component talks about learning through memorization. Like there's no prior knowledge, there's no process to it. You're just told it and you have to memorize it, and it's just repeated to you until you remember it. Like that prime example that could be like your ABCs or learning the order of the planets. But I think it could really come useful in a social studies classroom, especially if you want to remember how certain events transpired or dates. For instance, 1776, when the United States declared its independence. Everybody memorizes that. The cognitivist theory talks about the mental and cognitive processes used to make a memory or used to learn. All right, it's not learning that's reinforced or repeated to you. It's learning that you process within your own mind. That helps you form a memory and then helps you learn. And you need to have an optimal environment for this learning to happen, meaning learning conducive environment. And when you have a learning conducive environment, it makes full use of your cognitive processes, which enable you to learn more efficiently and quicker. All right, and basically a component of a cognitive learning approach is like critical thinking, problem solving, and exploratory learning. And that can be applied to social studies as well, because you can use critical thinking to decide like why so-and-so at this point in history did this, or problem solving, you're trying to figure out like what went wrong at this certain historical event. Now that I've described what the objectivist theory is to you, I'm going to give you an example of it in a real-life situation.
Hey, how you doing? Ben Strack.
Private Ryan, U.S. Army.
Thanks for meeting me. Alright, so tell me a little bit about boot camp.
Where do I start? It was very rough. The drill sergeant would yell at you and for the littlest thing. You never know discipline until that happens.
Like what? Littlest thing.
Well, one time I was at the shooting range and I improperly unloaded a pistol, and my drill sergeant saw. So he came over and he screamed at the top of his lungs, "What are you doing? That pistol's still loaded, you idiot!" And I stupidly asked him, "Well, what are you talking about, sir?" And then he took the gun, pointed it at my head, and told me that it's still loaded. And then he pointed it downrange, squeezed the trigger, and then he hit the target 30 yards away.
That must have been a quite scary learning experience from you, but you didn't forget that.
No, I did not forget it. I never ever forgot how to properly unload a handgun ever again.
Are there any other learning experiences you'd like to share like that one, or?
Well, this one's a little less extreme, but there was a time when I was in officer school, and they would give you a situation where it was very descriptive. It would give you a situation, you had to decide what you would do in that situation, like a combat situation. So that required a lot of problem solving, a lot of critical thinking, so you could, survive, but also so you and your men could survive and fight another day. And it really made you think about what you had to do, think about every aspect of the situation. It made you think a lot. It was quite mentally draining, but at the end of the day, when the academy tells you that you've got the best strategy, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, that must have been a challenge, but I bet it saved some lives in the end.
It did.
Why is brain research important in teaching? Provide examples.
Understanding how the brain develops through childhood and adolescent years can help us better understand why children act the way they do. This helps us as teachers because it allows us to communicate with our students more effectively. Also, being adept in brain research gives us the ability to switch teaching styles more freely, making sure all of our students get the full benefit of school. It is important we have this adaptability during this period of time in our students' lives. Dendrites and synapses are being overproduced, which is the first phase of brain development. It allows our students to remember more and remember it better. The second phase of brain development is the pruning phase. So if it isn't used, it withers away. This doesn't mean it couldn't be accomplished later in life, but it just becomes more difficult. So, this example directly answers why brain research is so important. The more we understand about how the brain functions, we in turn become better educators.
The date is October 10th, 2017, and the time is 2:20 p.m., and we're going to start brain surgery on our patient 0 here. How are we doing today, doctor?
Good. How about you, doctor?
Great. I'm excited to get this started. So today we're going to perform brain surgery on the male constituent to further our knowledge of brain research.
This could be the breakthrough we've been looking for. A patient willing to let us pick their brain, literally.
That was quite the pun on words, but all jokes aside, let's get this started. Don't want the anesthesia to wear off.
Right. Hey, doc, what happens if you touch this area?
Well, I'm not sure. Let's find out.
Wow, that was pretty interesting.
Yes. Very interesting indeed, doctor.
All right, doc, let's stimulate a different area. What do you say about over here?
If I'm not mistaken, that part of the brain helps deal with speech. Let's see what happens if I stimulate it.
Any information teens use and learn in school will be hardwired into the brain structure, both good and bad, and anything they ignore will lose priority.
Oh my, what was that?
I'm not entirely sure, doctor. I think we need to simulate a different area a few more times. Make sure that you're ready to take notes, okay?
Yep.
Like the rest of the brain, the hippocampus creates new dendrites and synapses during adolescence, which increase short-term memory in teenagers.
Eureka! Are you getting all of this?
Yes, of course, doctor.
We must do it again, for the sake of brain research. We will be remembered throughout history. They will be thrilled with this discovery.
Myelin covers the axons of neurons and enables information to travel efficiently.
Yes, doctor, that's it. Let's keep doing that.
Okay, one more time.
Adolescents tend to rely more on the amygdala than the frontal lobes when making decisions and respond emotionally to stimuli.
Wow, this is incredible. Well, it looks like the anesthesia is starting to wear off.
That observation seems correct. Alright, let's get this man sewn up before he comes to any more conclusions.
well, Doc, how'd your experiment go? Any luck in furthering your understanding of brain research?
We had no idea that you had such knowledge in brain development in adolescent teens.
What are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. I'm just a simple mailman trying to make some extra cash.
Very interesting indeed, Doctor.
I agree.
All right. That ends recording number 406.